All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. So I know XDefiant has their own Discord and stuff like that where you can submit community questions, but I also know that they are active on Twitter as well as on YouTube. And I figure since I have a decent chunk of the XDefiant community here on my channel that is very supportive and pretty much consistent, and I figured I would use this particular video just as a way to funnel questions for the devs and or Mark Rubin. And I've got about 10 or 11 questions that are not like too far off base, like too far ahead of where XDefiant is right now, in terms of like if I was able to ask Mark Rubin a question or a few questions, this would be something along the lines that I would ask. However, the comment section of videos is something that the devs are also looking at. So it's not just YouTube, it's also, I'm sorry, it's not just Twitter, it's not just Discord, but it's also YouTube as well as comment section of YouTube. So I figured as a community, we can kind of gather together and ask questions. So I've got about 10 or 11 questions over here that are, I would say, pretty reasonable. And at the same time, this gives you guys the opportunity to submit a couple of the more important questions that you might have for the devs that you would love to see answered. And who knows, maybe we will see something like that in the next XDefiant debrief or whatnot that is going to happen in about 3 weeks from now. So without further ado, let's get into it so that way the video won't be too long. So, and these are in no particular order of importance, by the way. These are just questions that I thought up, and I limited them to about 10 or 11. So here we go. The first question is, how many devs are there working on the game? Now, as of recently, I've done a poll, and most of you actually believe that there are 50 devs or less currently working on XDefiant. So I think that's actually a pretty reasonable question. I don't really see any secret as to why that would be kept under wraps, but it is what it is. But if he's able to answer that, then that'd be great. Next up, second question. Can you explain how the engine in XDefiant is good for the game, even though the engine was actually not originally designed for first-person shooter games? And this is something that I've covered in a previous video in its own dedicated video, and a lot of players are actually very curious about this. And as far as I understand, even though I'm not a dev, as far as I know is that obviously on one hand, it really doesn't make sense for an engine that's not designed for FPS games in the first place to be used for an FPS, but at the same time, there may be some advantages to having that engine if you convert it. So, I mean, if you think about the Call of Duty 4 engine or whatnot, which was a Quake-based engine, at this point, they've obviously changed it and made it different, and right now it's just, there's hardly any of it left anyway, maybe at the bones, if not less than that. And it's its own thing at this point. So is that something similar that they're planning to do with this current engine in terms of molding it in that aspect? I don't know. But at the same time, the Quake engine for COD 4 is an FPS engine. So this is kind of interesting. So I'd really like to know about that, a little bit more of an in-depth explanation for those of us that are not devs. So that way we would, know the everything behind that. Or was it just a budgetary thing in terms of they had no choice but to use that, because if they were to use something else, that would require more money for Ubisoft to dish out. All right, next up, question number 3. Have there been talks about shrinking linear maps for 6v6? So this was something that was briefly discussed in my stream, my more recent stream, and I think a lot of you guys support this idea. So obviously the linear maps, like the most recent one called Daytona, is very large and very long, just like the other linear maps are for the 2 game modes that they're played as. And obviously they're too big for 6v6, way too big for 6v6, even probably too big for 12v12. So with that being said, if they were to cut it down by like a quarter or a third or whatnot, I mean, they wouldn't have to add anything. All they would have to do is kind of maybe switch things around and decide which, parts of the map would be really playable for 6v6, if that's even possible, because they're meant to support 2 different kinds of game modes. So maybe it's not as easy as shrinking down the maps, but maybe some of them can work, because a lot of those maps are actually gorgeous, like really beautiful. And of course the night maps of downtown or whatnot. And I would really love to see something like that for 6v6. But at the same time, obviously it's not a game breaker or anything like that. But I just want to know if there are even talks about that to happen, because we're talking an additional 4+ maps or something like that could be added to Arena. So again, I don't know which game mode is the most popular, so we don't know. So anyway, let's go on to the next question here, and that is, can we expect more challenges and rewards to pair up with Prestige, right? We know Prestige mode is coming, hopefully within Season 1. And I just want to know if there's going to be additional challenges and rewards to come up with that. Because if it's just going to be a cut and paste of just the regular old prestige system, which I'm sure a lot of us are going to be fine with, and we know that the vast majority, Mark Rubin did a poll on his Twitter not too long ago, asking, you know, whether we prefer a traditional system or a seasonal system, and most of us actually preferred a traditional system. So with that being said, are there going to be any tweaks? That's what I'm saying. Is it going to be like a cut and paste traditional system, or is XDefiant basically going to put its own type of take on it? You know, is it going to be anything unique about it? All right, and that is the next question. Will Prestige be textbook, or will it be unique? All right, I'm going straight to the next one. Can we expect a leaderboards and stats feature for casual play similar to the one that you have planned in ranked? Now, in the recent XDefiant debrief, they showed off a little bit of a teaser in terms of the top 500 for ranked or something like that, or maybe even not just the top 500, but just maybe the entirety of people that play ranked, and they've got all their stats, their win-loss, all that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if we're going to have something similar like that for pubs or for casual play. I think a lot of players would really like that, whether they're casual or not. And as you guys know, an interest in such a feature, it does not limit it to just quote unquote sweats, right? Or just good players. Because ever since the days of Black Ops 1, I was always interested in terms of what my stats were personally. And it was also a good indicator on whether or not I was improving. So anyway, and of course it gave me more details about how I play, my play style and stuff like that, and all that stuff. So, because I'm actually really curious to know how many kills I've got with the M16, to be honest with you, as well as accuracy and all that stuff. All right, anyway, let's go on to the next question. My next question is, what is the most popular game mode? Now, obviously, I would love to say that is Team Deathmatch, which may be true, but as you guys know, XDefiant is very much, it plays very well with the factions and as well as everything else with objective-based game modes. However, Team Deathmatch throughout history in every single first-person shooter game has been the most popular game mode for the most part. And I don't think that that's going to change with XDefiant. However, one thing that can get it to change, though, if they were to, you know, make it more rewarding or just as rewarding for playing the OBJ in XDefiant than just getting kills, because obviously it works very well with the factions. So if they were to do something to reward players for taking the OBJ, such as, you know, weapon XP or something of that nature, a lot of players have been talking about that for a long time. So just a thought for just some food for thought there. All right, this is kind of a little bit more to me. Can we make suppressors more silent? And some guns are really loud as if you don't have a suppressor on, and some other guns, they are reasonably silent, but I think suppressors could be a little bit more silent because obviously the sound in this game, you know, you can, one of the better strengths of the sound in this game is that you can hear weapons shooting from whichever direction they're shot from. Obviously suppressors suppress that, but I think we could use a little bit more of a silence as far as that is concerned compared, you know, because in some other weapons it's just really loud as if you don't have any suppressors on. So, yeah. All right, moving on to the next one. What kinds of additional attachments can we accept? And the first one that came to mind is iron sights on snipers. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a sniper. I don't use snipers, okay? And one of the reasons is because of, you know, how the scoping and all the aiming works. And the first thing that comes to mind is the ballista from Black Ops 2. You guys remember the ballista from Black Ops 2? Now, I never used snipers in that game either. However, if they were to have an iron sights attachment for snipers, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I would seriously consider using snipers in XDefiant if that was the case, to where they could be used very similarly to a marksman rifle, but obviously a lot, you know, slower because they're sniper rifles. But you guys get the deal, right? Give me some good iron sights and I will use a sniper rifle. Other than that, I'm probably not going to touch it. And at the same time, it also gives me kind of a little bit of a way to, you know, sometimes you just got to fight fire with fire in order to counter something, because sometimes there's no way to counter something unless you use that something yourself, including weapons, which are the snipers. So there you go. And one of the questions in accordance to that, which is the next one, is will snipers catch an additional nerf? And if so, how? Because a lot of players have said that the nerf that they've recently done to snipers hasn't done shit. You know, like for instance, my recent experience with snipers is that like if you run into a team of snipers on, like, let's say Attica Heights, for instance, just using a map as an example, because Attica Heights and snipers go really well like peanut butter and jelly, right? I love it for my M16 as well, and I do the best that I can with that. However, if you've got a team using snipers on that map, man, it could be a pain in the ass, and it's very, very hard, if not damn near impossible, to counter that unless you use a sniper yourself. So, I mean, that's another thing. It's like snipers are very versatile, and then that's fine. I mean, I understand why they have to make snipers so good, and I understand that there's a good amount of the population that uses snipers for a multitude of different reasons, including the cheesiness of them and how powerful they can be. But at the same time, I also understand that if they nerf them too much, then not hardly anybody's going to use them, and you're going to have a weapon class that's pretty much not going to be there for any reason whatsoever. So it's like, what else can we expect if they are going to nerf them, right? Are they going to do it differently in terms of, you know, some sort of nerf? Are they going to nerf them even more, or do they have something else in mind? I don't know, because there's still a lot of complaining about snipers, even though I haven't really seen as much since the recent nerf. All right, and of course, the last question is, will there be additional penalties to bunny hopping abuse? Bunny hopping is still something of an issue that a lot of players are reporting, and the devs have already pretty much mentioned that they're going to catch an additional nerf. Now, the question is the additional nerf going to be in the form of going from 3 jumps to 2, or is it going to be something else added into the mix? I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it turns out by the time the bunny hopping gets, you know, to a place where it should be. And as far as air strafing is concerned, I don't mind it. However, you know, when you pair it with the bunny hopping, that is where it can get a little bit of an annoying, so to speak, to put it nicely. So anyway, guys, those are my 10 or 11 questions that I've pretty much come up with. Again, I didn't want it to be anything too crazy, but at the same time, down in the comment section below, you guys can let her rip. You know, I might have missed something as well that is more important that you guys might have been expecting for me to ask. So these are my 10 or 11 questions, and I want to know down in the comment section, and I'm pretty sure the devs that might catch this video might want to know as well, what kind of specific questions do you have about XDefiant that you would really like to be answered, or requests. Basically, questions are basically requests if you think about it at the end of the day. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope these are a few of the questions that you guys had in mind, and again, at the same time, take advantage of the comment section below and add to this list if you need to. So anyway, thank you all, as always, for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.